Hey friends, thanks for tuning into my channel. In this video I'll be talking about first steps to get your Lolita wardrobe started, as well as how my wardrobe got to be what it is today. The first things that it's going to take to build a Lolita wardrobe are time and money. Good quality Lolita pieces tend to be more pricey than normal clothes, even if they're on the lower end of the price range. I'm no financial expert myself, but the best way that I've found to save money is to cut certain things out of my fun budget and add that into my Lolita budget. When I was still struggling through college, I would skip nights at the bar and skip getting takeout here and there, and instead put that money that I anticipated to spend at the bar or on takeout into my Lolita wardrobe fund. Another way I've made my dream purchases happen is by selling things that aren't being used or aren't making me as happy as they used to. One of the perks of buying good quality Lolita pieces is resale value. A Lolita wardrobe can be completely cycled out if you decide that you want to go for a new sub-style, or if you don't enjoy the fashion anymore and you wanted to sell all of your pieces. At least you know that you could get something for it. My biggest tip for affording Lolita is to make yourself a budget. Figure out how much you spend on your expenses each month and how much money you make, and then figure out from there, like whatever money you have left over for spending, saving, figure out a plan. And when you're budgeting for your Lolita purchases, don't forget to include shipping. Items domestically within the USA cost somewhere between $5 to $15 to ship, depending on the size of the item and how far it's going. And shopping outside the country, in my experience at least, will cost $25 minimum unless you're getting something incredibly small like wrist cuffs or a hair clip. The other factor I touched a little bit on is time. Obviously, it takes time to build a Lolita wardrobe, especially if you intend to buy a lot of things from overseas. You're going to be stuck, often waiting a long time to actually get your items. If you need something urgently, you're going to want to shop domestically in your country, or you'll end up paying a lot of money for rush shipping. For me personally, the events of 2020 have dissolved the urgency for items because there aren't any meets to go to or prepare for anymore. Regardless, who doesn't like instant gratification? I personally favor methods that don't require me to wait more than a week for my items. So now you've budgeted some money. Next, you need to figure out how to spend it wisely. You don't want to waste your money buying low quality pieces or things that aren't cohesive. Making your first cord is easy, but this isn't just about making one cord. This is about starting a wardrobe. So we want to make sure that you have pieces that are cohesive and will be useful for many cords to come. I recommend before buying anything, you take your time and look through as many resources as you can to try and pin down a Lolita style. Look at magazines like Gothic Lolita Bible, like Cara, brand Instagrams, Twitters, advertisements for Taobao and Japanese brands, and anything else you can get your hands on. I recommend screenshotting each cord you see that makes you happy. Sometimes you won't like the whole cord, sometimes you'll just like parts of it. Occasionally I'll screenshot like a pair of boots or like a portion of a cord that I really like the silhouetting of. You may not notice from the outset, but when you go back and start looking at all those pictures, you're going to start finding commonalities. Common themes that'll start to stick out to you will be things like colors, print motifs, sometimes non-print, depending on who you are, silhouettes, skirt lengths, and certain substyles. You might be tempted to work on several themes and styles and coordinates at once, but I would really recommend that you pick one to start. Pick one substyle, one color palette, and one theme. You'll thank me later. When you're building your first coordinate, it's important not to paint yourself into a corner by choosing something that has a very rare motif or a color palette that you won't see very often. You can avoid this problem by buying more plain things or more commonly found colors and motifs to start out with. For instance, I started my wardrobe with Sweet Lolita. I chose the color palette pink and black. And for motifs, I love things that are cute. I love cute animals, woodland creatures, candy. And at this point, I've collected a ton of accessories that can go with anything bunny themed, anything that's got candies on it, and anything black and pink. I've got a plethora of accessories ready to go for that. Another thing that'll be immediately important to you is your petticoat. Getting the right petticoat is what makes the Lolita look. You might notice that a lot of the dresses you like have one style of petticoat over the other, or you might not. For me personally, I love A-line, I love bell-shaped, As you get an idea of the type of dresses you like, look at the stock photos and see what kind of petticoat they're meant to be worn with. If you're like me, you'll end up with a massive bag of petticoats in the top of your closet, stuffed to the brim. As your wardrobe grows, you might want to have several different shapes and poof levels for different occasions. I wear Lolita daily, so some days I don't want to wear a massive petticoat. Some days I want to wear a pretty casual skirt that just doesn't have room underneath it. Other days I want to be a friggin' poof monster. So I put on my most massive petticoat with one of my widest skirts and go out there and take too much space. Now that you know what you like and you have some money saved up, you want to avoid the pitfall of ordering clothes that are too large or too small for you. If you don't already have one, I recommend buying a tape measure. If you have someone around to help you measure yourself, that's ideal. But if not, you can get good enough measurements to be able to order clothes on the internet. The most important measurements you'll need to have are your bust, your waist, your sleeve length, and your shoulder measurement. I've linked a video below of how to take your measurements properly. Write your measurements down in your phone's notes app or somewhere that you'll always have them handy. Messing up your measurements when buying Lolita can be incredibly costly. Dress length is something that you'll start to notice differences in once you have some more pieces in your wardrobe. Everyone is different when it comes to their preference of skirt length. I'm a little tall for Lolita standards, so I like to wear things that are a little bit on the longer side, around 90 centimeters. But I love some short dresses too. When you purchase clothes, the ideal size is about 4 centimeters above your natural bust and waist measurement. If you're buying shirred pieces, however, you need to worry about that a lot less. As long as you fit within the size range, you should have no issue. If you're purchasing something secondhand and measurements aren't listed, you can usually find them listed on lolibrary.org, linked in the description as well. One thing to note is that Lolibrary is a community-based resource, so not everything on there is 100% accurate or measured to professional standards. I'd also suggest as a secondary resource to check out secondhand listings for the piece you're looking to purchase. Now you've officially gotten everything you need to start buying Lolita items. You've got some money saved, you know what you like, and you know your sizing. Where you decide to shop comes down to a lot of personal things, like your budget, your wardrobe goals, your sizing, your ethics, etc. When I first got back into Lolita fashion a lot more seriously a couple years ago, I was pining for the styles that got me into the fashion in the first place. The 2008 era of sweet. Being that my wardrobe goals were all dresses that hadn't been in production for 10 plus years, I had to turn to the secondhand market to find what I wanted. Luckily, these days, the secondhand market is thriving internationally. We can order directly from several sites to the United States, and when we can't, there's shopping services. I highly recommend doing research into shopping services for Taobao as well as for Japanese markets. Most of my recommendations would be secondhand shops, because as I said before, that's where I do majority of my shopping. My recommendations for direct ordering to the United States, or within the United States, are Closet Child, Wonderwelt, and Lace Market. I don't often buy things firsthand, but when I do, they tend to be Angelic Pretty, Baby the Stars Shine Bright, and Metamorphose. The first two have United States shops, so you can order directly from them, but you can also order from all three's Japanese stores using a shopping service. Now you have all the information needed to start building a cohesive wardrobe. Good luck out there. In my next video, I'll be talking about how to make visually interesting coordinates. Stay tuned. Dress.